Year 2, it's Miss West again, and I'm back with my friend Plop the baby barn owl, and we're here today to read you the next 2 chapters of The Owl Who Was Afraid of the Dark. So first, before we get started, at the end of my last video I asked you some questions about chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I want to see if you managed to get the answers to those questions. Right, so we're going to go through them first, and then we're going to crack on and we're going to read the next 2 chapters. So, your questions for chapter 1, which was Dark is Exciting, were as follows. The first question was, who is Plop? And the answer to that is, Plop is a baby barn owl. Question 2 was, where does he live and who does he live with? And the answer to that question was, he lives with his mummy and daddy owl at the top of a tall tree. Question 3, and this was the easy one, what is Plop afraid of? Of course, Plop is afraid of the dark. Question 4 was, how does Plop land next to the little boy? And he landed with a somersault. So well done if you got that right. Question 5, why does the little boy say that dark is exciting? Now he says that dark is exciting because at night when it's dark you can see fireworks. Question 6, who does Plop sit with to watch the fireworks? And of course, he sits with Mummy Owl and Daddy Owl. Question 7, where does Mr. Barn Owl go after the fireworks have finished? And the answer to that question is, he goes out hunting for food. So, hopefully you managed to get most of those questions about chapter 1 correct, if not all of them, which I'm sure lots of you did. So, the questions about chapter 2 were as follows. So, question 1 was, how does Plop land by the old lady? And the answer to that was, he lands with a thump. Question 2, why doesn't Plop go hunting at night? And the answer to that question is, because his father goes when it is dark and Plop is afraid of the dark, aren't you, Plop? Question 3, why does the old lady say that dark is kind? And she says that dark is kind because she can forget she is old and sit and remember the good times. Okay, so question number 4 was, why doesn't Plop have much to remember yet? And the answer to that question, as he says, is because he's rather new, you see. And the very last question for chapter 2 was, how does Plop feel about the dark after speaking to the old lady? The answer to that is, he's still afraid of it. So well done if you managed to get the answers to those questions, whether it's chapter 1, chapter 2 or both chapters. Well done. So now we're going to move on to the next 2 chapters in the story. Chapter 3 is Dark is Fun. That evening, when it was getting dark, Mr. Barn Owl invited Plop to go hunting with him again. "Coming, son?" he said. "It's a lovely night."
Not this time, thank you, Daddy," said Plop, who was sitting just outside the nest hole. I'm busy."
"You don't look busy," Mr. Barn Owl said. "What are you doing?"
"I am busy remembering," said Plop.
"I see," said his father. "In that case, I shall have to go by myself."
and he swooped off into the darkness like a great silent jet aeroplane. "What are you remembering, Plop?" asked his mother. "I'm remembering what the old lady said about dark being kind. She says she is never lonely in the dark because she has so much to remember." "Well then," said Mrs. Barnow, "this would seem to be a good moment for me to slip out and do a little hunting." "You're not going to leave me by myself?" said Plop. "I shan't be very long, and I'll try to bring you back something nice." "But I shall be lonely." "No, you won't. You just keep busy remembering like the old lady said." Plop watched his mother float off into the darkness like a white feather. The darkness seemed to come towards him and wrap itself around him. "Dark is kind, dark is kind," Plop muttered to himself. "Dark is kind. Oh dear, what shall I remember?" He closed his eyes and tried to remember something to remember. Fireworks. He would remember the fireworks. He'd enjoyed them. The darkness had been spotted and striped and sploshed with coloured lights above the glow of the bonfire. He still had stars in his eyes when he thought of it. Shouts, happy shouts from under his tree brought Plop back from his remembering. He opened his eyes and peered down through the leaves. There were people running about in his field, and flames were flickering from a pile of sticks. Another bonfire? Did that mean more fireworks? Plop watched excitedly. He could see now that the people running about were boys, quite big boys in shorts, and they were collecting more wood for the fire. Suddenly, they all disappeared into the woods with squeals and yells. All but one. There was one boy left sitting on a log near the fire. Plop forgot about being afraid of the dark. He had to know what was going on. So he shut his eyes, took a deep breath, and fell off his branch. The ground was nearer than he expected, and he landed with an enormous thud. "Coo!" said the boy on the log. "A roly-poly pudding." "Who threw that?" "Nobody threw me. I just came," said the roly-poly pudding. "And actually, I'm a barn owl." "So you are," said the boy. "Have you fallen out of your nest?" Plop drew himself up as tall as he could. "I did not fall. I flew," he said. "I'm just not a very good lander, that's all. I came to see if you were going to have fireworks, as a matter of fact." "Fireworks?" said the boy. "No, what made you think that?" "Well, the bonfire," Plop said. "Bonfire?" said the boy. "This is no bonfire. This is a campfire, and I'm guarding it until the others get back." "Where have they gone?" asked Plop. "They've gone to play games in the dark. Lucky things." "Do you like playing games in the dark?" asked Plop. "It's super," said the boy. "Dark is fun. Even quite ordinary games like hide and seek are fun in the dark. My favourite is the game where one of you stands outside a home with a torch in his hand and shines it on anything he sees or hears moving. The rest of you have to creep past him and home without being spotted. It's super." There was a crash and a yell of "Scumbo! Got you!" from the wood. They're playing it now. Old Scumbo always gets caught first. He's got such big feet. You have to creep like a shadow not to be caught. Oh, it would be my turn to guard the fire. What's the fire for?" asked Plop. "Well, we cook potatoes in it and make cocoa and sing around it." "What for?" "What for? Because it's fun. And because Boy Scouts have always had campfires." "Is that what you are, a Boy Scout?" "Of course, silly, or I wouldn't be here." "I must put some more wood on the fire." Plop watched the Boy Scout build up the fire. Could I be a Boy Scout, do you think?" he asked. "Doubt it," said the Scout. "You're a bit on the small side. I suppose you could be a cub, but you have to be 8 years old." "I'm 8 weeks," said Plop. "Looks as if you'll have a long wait then, doesn't it?" said the Scout. "Anyway," he grinned, "you'd look jolly silly in the uniform." Plop looked so disappointed that the Scout added, "Never mind, you can stay for the sing-song tonight." "Oh, can I?" cried Plop. "That would be so super." "You'd better go home and ask your mother first, though." So Plop flew up to the nest hole and found his mother waiting. "Where have you been?" she said. She sounded a bit cross, like all mothers do when they've been worried. "I've been talking to a Boy Scout and he says dark is fun. And he says I can stay for the campfire. So can I, Mummy? Please?" "Well, yes. All right," she said. "Super," said Plop. So Plop was a Boy Scout for the night. He sat on his new friend's shoulder and was introduced to all the others. They made a great fuss of him, and he had a wonderful time. He did not care for cocoa, but he enjoyed a small potato. His friend blew on it for him to cool it, because he knew that owls swallow their food whole, and a hot potato in the tummy would have been very uncomfortable for Plop. The Scouts huddled round the fire and sang while the sparks danced. They sang funny songs and sad songs, long songs and short songs. Plop did not sing because he wanted to listen, but every now and then he got a bit excited and fluttered around the boys' heads crying, "Eek, eek," and everybody laughed. They sang until the fire had sunk to a deep red glow, and Plop had turned quite pink in its light. Then it was time to go home. Time for the boys and time for Plop. And when Plop had said goodbye to them all, and bowed till he ached, he spread his wings and flew up to the landing branch. "Well," said his mother, "I told you. The Boy Scout says dark is fun." And what do you think, Plop? I still do not like it at all, but I think campfires are super. Did you bring me back something special? I did. Plop swallowed it in one gulp. "That was nice," he said. "What was it?" "A grasshopper." "Oh, I like grasshoppers," said Plop. "What's next?" Okay, so your questions for Chapter 3, Dark is Fun. Now, remember, if you're not sure of the answer to any of these questions, you can always go back, watch the video and pause it at any point you think the answer to my question might be. Okay, so we've got question 1. Why didn't Plop go hunting with his daddy? What did he say? What were his reasons? And question 2. What did Plop decide to remember? Okay, then we've got question 3. Why does the boy say the dark is fun? Question 4. What is the boy's favourite game? Okay, and then we have the last 2 questions. Question 5. What else do the Boy Scouts do around the campfire? And question 6. What kind of songs do the Boy Scouts sing? Okay, so hopefully you've managed to answer all of those questions about chapter 3. In the next video, you will hear me read chapter 4, and again, I'll have some questions for you about that chapter at the end.